Hi, welcome back guys. This is your friend, the fanfiction guy. Back with another fanfiction. This is the first part of What If Deku Becomes Sunshine the Vigilante. Now before starting, please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you want more videos like this. Now let's get into the fanfic. Izuku Midoriya was born into a hopeful world. He had everything a growing child could want: a place to learn, food, shelter, friends, and a loving mother. Every day brought something new for Izuku to discover, from the best flavor of ice cream to the complexities of how society treated him. However, on his 4th birthday, he was declared quirkless in a world filled with people who had extraordinary abilities. Once surrounded by friends, he found himself tormented by them instead. School became a place of suffering, with teachers dismissing the bullying as kids being kids, despite his mother's complaints. The only person who stood by him through this ordeal was his mother. No matter the verbal or physical abuse he faced, he always returned home for her smile. He lived for her. After a fateful encounter with All Might, Izuku felt his dreams shattered. A quirkless person could never become a hero. Without a quirk, they are weak, echoed in his mind. 6 years later, those words haunted him. How could he say that to me? I thought all men were born equal, but I guess that was never true in this society. Sitting on the roof, he contemplated giving up. Maybe I should just jump. No one would stop me. He peered over the edge, considering the long drop. Would anyone care? Images of his mother's warm smile flooded his mind. No, I won't do it. There is still one person who cares. He stepped back from the edge, but despair lingered. All my career options need quirks. What if I become like them? They cause chaos. But what if I become a different kind of hero? That could work. That's it. That very day, Izuku Midoriya, also known as Deku, made a decision that would change everything. At the age of 10, Izuku began his vigilante journey. All Might's words mocked him, while Katsuki's taunts pushed him forward. One evening, wearing a worn-out black hoodie and dark jeans, he walked the streets, hands in his pockets and head down. He had left an apology on his desk but cherished the time spent with his mother. Suddenly, a scream pierced the night. Izuku's heart raced as he sprinted toward the sound, his mind screaming that he shouldn't be doing this, but his spirit urged him on. He found a woman in a red dress pressed against a wall, a man looming over her with a predatory grin. "Please do something, mister," she cried out. The attacker turned, confused, but it was too late. Izuku crept up behind him, wielding a small tin as a weapon. With a swift motion, he struck the man, who collapsed to the ground. "Are you okay?" Izuku asked the woman, concern in his eyes. "Yes, thank you. I don't know what I could have done without your help," she replied, bowing in gratitude. "You should call the cops," he said, turning to leave the alleyway. "Wait, what is your name?" she called after him. Izuku glanced back, a sad smile on his face. "It doesn't matter." And with that he sprinted away, heart racing and body shaking. He had saved someone's life, yet he still felt like he was not a hero. As he wandered through the night, muttering to himself, an elderly man approached him. "Hello, young man. Could I ask for your help with something?" "Oh, sure, mister," Izuku replied, eager to assist. An hour later, the man smiled at him. "Thank you so much, young man. You are a real hero." "Oh, it was nothing really. I'm just grateful I could be of help to you." Izuku grinned back. "You shouldn't put yourself down so much. You are worth more than you think," Mr. McGough complimented. A little while later, Izuku waved goodbye, heading home for some much-needed rest and reflection. "You will be an amazing hero, young man." A blush crept onto his cheeks. "Goodbye, Mr. McGough. I'll come around tomorrow to help again." Midoriya called back, leaving the elderly man to reminisce about their meeting. It had been nearly 2 full years since Izuku became a vigilante by chance. If it hadn't been for that fateful day, he might not have survived. This job didn't come without its risks, so Izuku trained hard. His gear was mostly black with a few stripes of green. The helmet was tight-fitting, resembling a motorcycle helmet with some unique features. It required a password to be removed unless destroyed, had a gas filtration system and a retractable mouthguard, while his eyes were always shielded. The goggles included thermal and night vision settings. The only thing that annoyed him was the large pointed ears attached to the helmet, which, while useful for enhanced hearing, resembled cat ears. They were designed to pick up sounds more efficiently, especially when his other senses failed him. The rest of his suit gave him a mutant-like appearance. He wore a long-sleeved shirt and trousers made from a special fabric that was fireproof, waterproof, and durable. Reused metal was smelted into armor plating strapped to his shoulders, elbows, ankles, knees, thighs, and chest. A utility belt hung crookedly at his waist, containing essentials like throwing knives, stun bombs, a phone, a snack bar, a retractable bow staff, a lighter, and hacking gear. His large gauntlets held various gas mixtures, from flammable to sleeping gas. His shoes were ordinary red sneakers with white shoelaces, and a long, fluffy tail was attached to his waist, twitching as if it were real. This piece of tech detected heat in the air, sending signals to his helmet screen to warn him of elemental quirks, especially fire-related ones. Izuku had learned to be prepared after too many encounters with Endeavor. At that moment, Izuku sat on the roof, his legs hanging off the edge. He had improved significantly since that day, but the weight of his past still lingered. He had come close to giving up, yet his willpower and heart propelled him forward, driven by his mother's smile and the kindness he had received since then. He wanted to prevent others from reaching that dark point. No one should suffer like that. The silent landing of a certain pro warned Izuku of an incoming attack. "Hello, Eraserhead. How was your day?" Izuku leaned to his right as a capture weapon shot past him. "Long you kid." Eraserhead's footsteps grew louder as he approached. "Nothing interesting until now," Izuku chirped. Eraserhead, also known as Aizawa Shoyuda, had recognized from their first meeting that Izuku was different. He knew the kid would be a handful, but he appreciated the company. Aizawa had grown fond of him, even if he hadn't yet earned the kid's full trust. 2 years had passed since he first read about Izuku's Vigilante debut. The kid's popularity had soared, earning him the nickname Sunshine. Their initial encounters had led to a year of Aizawa chasing Izuku around town, with the young vigilante avoiding him to let the pro do his job. "Here," Aizawa said, tossing Izuku a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, which the kid accepted gratefully. Izuku's tail swished happily, reminiscent of a dog. "Thank you," he said, turning to reveal a toothy grin. His face was slightly tanned, dotted with freckles. "Don't bother," Aizawa huffed, though he knew Izuku could see through his tough exterior. "Here's the information on the black tides." The helmet concealed Izuku's face once more. Aizawa took the small notebook, impressed by the detailed drawings and notes. He often wondered how Izuku gathered such information. "Don't bother asking. I have my ways. Remember." Izuku replied playfully. "Of course, kid. I forgot who I was talking to. Sunshine, the MSTR information broker in the Mizudafu region." Aizawa joked, pocketing the "Those. You'd better keep those safe or else. I'm not doing it all over again." Izuku warned, though a teasing tone crept into his voice. "I'll try to avoid spilling coffee on these notes this time," Aizawa quipped. "Wait, Eraserhead actually has other emotions besides unbothered and unfazed. Are you softening around me?" Izuku teased. No, don't push it. We'll be striking them in a week. You'd better not be there, got it?" Eraserhead pointed an accusing finger at the young vigilante. All right. You got me this time. I'll avoid getting captured again. Besides, I'm too fast for them." And just like that, the kid was bolting away. Taking the light with him, Aizawa saw why they called him Sunshine. "Yes, Hizashi," Aizawa said, displeased with his husband. "So how did your meeting with the kid go? Any new information about him?" "No." "Oh, let me guess. You're in a bad mood because he took the Sunshine with him. You really do care for this kid. I knew I married you for a reason," Hizashi teased. "Niza help him. If Sunshine and Hizashi teamed up, he'd be in trouble." Just like that, he hung up on his husband and continued his patrol. His core hoped to run into the vigilante again. However, that wasn't likely knowing the kid. 5 years of dealing with the world's challenges, and Izuku had had enough. Now he was 4 years into his new persona. A fist collided with his opponent's face, a sickening crunch echoing as they reeled back, screaming. "You monster! You will pay for this!" The guy threatened. He had a mutant-type quirk that made him look like a wolf. From what Izuku could observe, he had better hearing and smell, but not reflexes. "Come and bring it then," Izuku taunted, standing tall, taking advantage of his growth spurt. "Namit. He's a monster. Let's just leave." One of the wolfman's lackeys whimpered. The two men limped out of the alleyway, leaving Izuku alone. "Good." Izuku huffed, puffing out his chest. He turned to check on the person he had fought for. "Are you okay now?" "Oh yes. Thank you," the guy mumbled, taking Izuku's offered hand. "What is your name?" Izuku asked. "Oh, it's Shinso Hitoshi," Shinso murmured, hanging his head. "Why did you help me, mister?" "My reason for helping you is that your quirk isn't a villain's quirk. No one can decide that but you." Izuku gave him a toothy grin. "If you come with me, I can get you patched up and looking brand new." Izuku noticed Shinso's abrupt halt and turned to face the purple-haired teen. "I know the feeling of being picked on because of quirks. I make it my responsibility to help others who suffer like me. So no, I won't regret my decision." Izuku gently grabbed Shinso's hand. "You see this?" Shinso gave him a confused look. "It's your hand. A villain wouldn't let me touch them because they would think I'd arrest them." "Really?" "Nope. But seriously, don't let them tell you who you are, okay?" Izuku's grin grew. Shinso just kept staring, dumbstruck. When did he deserve such kindness? "Come on, let's get you patched up." Izuku pulled Shinso behind him, leading him to his workplace. A few minutes of walking in silence later, they arrived at Mr. Carl's Gear, a store with rusty red paint and dirty glass windows. A clean white door led to a large warehouse-style workroom. "I'm here for work, Mr. Carl," Izuku called out. "Anything interesting happened to you today, young Izuku?" Mr. Carl replied. "Meh. I got into a fight and brought a kid to the workplace to clean up his wounds." Izuku's casual tone suggested fights were a usual occurrence for him. "The kid a target or an opponent?" "Target." Izuku dragged Shinso to a chair and sat him down. "Wait here, I'll bring the medkit to you." Taking the opportunity, Shinso took in every detail of the shop. Crowded tables were covered in clutter like wires, gears, data chips, and other computer parts. Loud clattering could be heard from the small room Izuku disappeared into. "Found it." Izuku reappeared carrying a bright red box with a white cross on it. "I'm gonna need you to lift your t-shirt up, okay?" Shinso nodded. 30 minutes of patching up their wounds later, Shinso had Izuku Midoriya's number and maybe even a future friendship to bloom. The idea excited Shinso, but he couldn't get his hopes up. Izuku would probably forget about him in a month, and then they'd be strangers once more. However, 3 months later, Izuku had spent every free minute he could with his best friend. 6 months into Izuku and Shinso's friendship, Aizawa Shuda's perspective shifted as he watched the news. Endeavor stopped a villain from bombing a nearby power plant. However, an apartment building caught fire. 10 people died and 5 others are missing. "Oh, that's just horrible," Hizashi murmured next to Shoyuta on the couch. The images of the deceased appeared on the screen, including a 12-year-old boy with fair skin, dark green hair, and freckled cheeks. In that instant, Aizawa was off the couch and heading out on patrol. He needed to see the kid and make sure he was okay. "Shoyuta, where are you going, love?" Hizashi called after him. "Out," he gruffly replied, worry lacing his words. He had been running around town for the past 4 hours and had seen no sign of the kid. The media also had no updates tonight. The kid had started 3 to 4 patrols a week now, which was concerning on its own. "If only the kid would talk to me," Aizawa growled, frustration knotting in his stomach. Just as he was about to give up, he spotted a figure hunched over the edge. The slight twitch of a tail caught his attention, and he sprinted over. Hearing soft sniffles coming from Sunshine, he decided to approach slowly. Sunshine was many incredible things, but he was still just a child. "Figured. What's wrong?" Aizawa asked. The look he received was all the reply he needed. Tears were streaming from under the visor. He froze, the usually cheeky grin now replaced by a frown. Do you want to talk about it? Aizawa offered. Sunshine turned his face back to the edge, seemingly deep in thought. Aizawa sat down beside him, offering his presence as comfort. I once thought jumping was the answer to all my problems, Sunshine murmured, his small sniffs barely audible. Aizawa felt a physical flinch at the boy's words. The idea of taking my own life seemed like the best course of action, especially since I was bullied by the other kids. No one should have wanted me, yet my mother stood by me through it all. She never looked at me with disgust, only love. I knew what I was doing was wrong, but it felt right. Sunshine paused, lifting his head, more tears running down his face. However, that night I heard a woman scream and ran to her aid. The feeling I got from helping her changed everything. I had already given up on my dreams, but with that chance encounter, I knew I could never give up on being a hero. So I became a vigilante for others, but also to protect her smile. He turned to face Aizawa. Do you think I failed her, Eraserhead? Do you think she's mad at me for failing her? She's probably up there hating my guts. His sobs grew louder, his voice cracking. It should have been me in that building, not her. I should be dead, not her. The sound of his fists beating against the building jolted Aizawa from his thoughts. He grabbed the kid's hand, wrapping his arm carefully over Sunshine's shoulder, pulling him closer to let the boy rest his head against him. Never wish to say something like that again, please. Aizawa pleaded, his voice clear. You have done so much good and will continue to. Your mother would be proud of you, and she wouldn't want you to hate yourself. She'd want you to do the next right thing. And what would be the next right thing, Eraserhead? If the blackened glass hadn't been there, Aizawa's shields would have crumbled. He wished he could wrap the kid in his scarf, safe from the world, but he knew that would jeopardize the trust they had built. By living for yourself now, Aizawa said, rubbing circles on the kid's back. Light snores came from Sunshine, making Aizawa chuckle softly at their similarities. He gently lifted the kid and settled down against the roof entry, both listening to the city's quiet hum before Aizawa dozed off. Waking up the next day, cold and alone, Aizawa found a small note with an apology for being a hassle stuck to his head, along with a cheerful, "See you soon," and a thumbs up. That kid never ceased to amaze him with his courage. 4 years earlier, Izuku Midoriya was a 10-year-old quirkless boy in a society of quirks. His life had led to a crucial decision: give up or keep fighting. He chose the latter and now stood in front of a massive pile of trash and an employment form. Alright, me. You can do this. We just have to start building up our body strength. Easy. Izuku hyped himself up, standing on Mizudafu Beach littered with trash, dressed in a tank top and form-fitting trousers, the best he could do on short notice. A gym bag slung over his shoulder contained casual clothing for later. With a snap of his fingers, Izuku formed a plan to build his skills while cleaning the beach. Start with the smallest, then continue until you get to the largest. He hummed to himself, lifting a busted microwave. For months later, Izuku crouched on the ledge of a roof, watching the night come to an end. His ears twitched, his body shifting into a ready stance. However, when he realized it was merely a cat knocking over a trash can, he let out an exasperated sigh. Crime is slow tonight, he yawned. During those 4 months, Izuku trained his body, dropped out of school, and worked 2 part-time jobs, one at an IT store and another at a late-night coffee shop. The beach was 1/4 of the way done, and with the little free time he had, he hung out with friends and trained at the gym run by a woman with a practically useless quirk. Now, back in the present day, Izuku was dressed in his vigilante costume on the roof of an apartment building. Dressed in a quirky costume with 2 fluffy tails and a fox-themed mask, Izuku felt the warmth of the sun breaking over the rooftops, a welcome change from the cold night. A buzz from his pocket reminded him he had places to be. He stretched his body, still feeling the chill, and slid down the drain pipe to the ground. Moving stealthily through the shadows, he arrived at work. In his locker, he changed into a light gray jumpsuit with lime green stripes, using goggles to keep his curly green hair in place. "Morning, Carl," Izuku greeted tiredly. Another late night, Midoriya. Carl raised an eyebrow. Yeah, nothing too intense, but a crime is a crime, Izuku replied as he plopped down into his seat. How did your gear hold up? The hearing advancements worked great, but if I face someone with a sound-oriented quirk, my eardrums might not survive, Izuku commented. Their conversation continued, discussing the pros and cons of his support gear, interrupted occasionally by customers entering the store. Mr. Carl ran a repair shop, but they also took orders from vigilantes and repaired gear when needed. The bell rang, signaling Shinso's arrival. Hey, Izuku, you ready for lunch? He asked, leaning over Izuku's design book. Yep. But afterward, I'll need to sleep, Izuku informed him. You always need sleep. Maybe you should work less and enjoy life more, Shinso teased. I do enjoy what I do, Izuku replied, pulling his book from under his best friend. Have you packed up all your stuff yet? Yep. Izuku chirped. Well, I expect you to be there tomorrow. 5:30 a.m. sharp, got it. Shinso eyed him seriously. I know, but life always has other plans. I can't help that I'm popular with the pro heroes, Izuku teased back. Just keep safe, okay? Shinso said, concern creeping into his voice. Wow. You sound like my mom. Izuku huffed. I'm taking that as a compliment since you're always getting into trouble. Shinso retorted with a laugh. They both broke into laughter. Okay. I'll try not to get into too much trouble tonight, Izuku wheezed. Good. Now let's go. Izuku ended his long day with lunch and a playful conversation with his best friend. His days typically wrapped up at lunchtime before starting again at 5 p.m. Later, 14-year-old Izuku sprinted toward Mr. McGough's old coffee shop, bag in hand, tears forming at the corners of his eyes. After his mother died in a fire, Mr. McGough took him in, providing a new home during a difficult time. Mr. McGough had signed the forms for Izuku's adoption. To Izuku, Mr. McGough had already felt like family. So the first thing he did when he moved in was reveal his vigilante persona. Mr. McGough was proud of him, though worry flickered in his eyes, which he never voiced. The loss of his mother had been a tough experience, but it gave him a new perspective on life. He wasn't alone anymore. He had a rather unconventional family, and he loved them for it. Shinso. Izuku called cheerfully to his friend. Izuku. Shinso grinned back. You ready to open up shop? Yes. Izuku came to a halt in front of his brother. After his mother's passing, Izuku had been a wreck, but Shinso had stayed by his side throughout it all. They became inseparable, calling each other brothers. When Mr. McGough adopted him, the first thing he did was dye his hair a vibrant purple, which often led to people asking which brother was older. Of course, Shinso was older by 14 days. Hello, brat. Mr. Carl grunted, a grin forming on his lips. Oh, sorry. Hello, Mr. Carl. Izuku waved to his mentor. You youngins are such a hassle. Mr. Carl muttered, yet the smile remained on his face. He was a friend of Mr. McGough and had recommended Izuku to him. Izuku learned so much from Mr. Carl, who helped him build his vigilante costume. He kept Izuku's secret safe even from Mr. McGough, until Izuku finally told him, and it became a daily topic at the dinner table. Mr. McGough had passed away a month ago, and Mr. Carl decided to become his caretaker. Though he hadn't adopted him, he became his legal guardian until someone else did. Izuku hoped Eraserhead would, but he wasn't quite ready to reveal his identity to him yet. Have you thought of a name for the cafe yet? Shinso asked. Nope, Izuku chirped back. Oh. Mr. Carl and I made that decision for you anyway. So you didn't really have a say in that matter. Shinso had a massive grin on his face. Oh, Nizu/Nedzu. What did you name it? Izuku already had an inkling of what they'd done. A piece of brown fabric covered the sign, with a long piece of string in Mr. Carl's hand. With a loose tug, the fabric fell to reveal a white sign with large yellow letters spelling out, Sunshine. We already know what you're going to say, kid, but you've helped so many people. We thought naming it Sunshine would make you happy along with others, Mr. Carl stated, turning his wheelchair around to face Izuku. Tears began to fall from his eyes. You guys. We know, but that's not all. Shinso wrapped his arm around Izuku. Wait till you see inside. Am I going to regret this? No choice. Mr. Carl interjected. Apparently he had installed sliding doors for accessibility. It locks at a certain time, which can be changed with this device. Mr. Carl tossed Izuku a remote. The inside had a rustic wood aesthetic, with the counter being the first thing you saw upon entering. The counter already had a till, and a glass case sat beside it. For your baked goods, Shinso pointed out, letting Izuku go so he could explore his cafe. A coffee machine was on the left of the counter while the case sat on the right. A door leading into small living quarters was wedged between two bookshelves. Four bookshelves stood behind the counter, filled with labeled genres and books. Tables were spread to his left and right, and large windows allowed light to flood in. The wall to his right was a soft pastel green, with two restroom doors a few feet away from the bookshelves. The wall on his left was covered in hero posters. You guys did all of this for me. Izuku felt the tears begin to pour. Well, I have a few friends in the building industry, so I asked for a few favors, Mr. Carl shrugged. You shouldn't have. Whose idea was it to cover the wall with hero posters? Izuku asked through sobs. That was my idea. It was the only thing I helped with. I thought you'd like it. Shinso rubbed the back of his neck nervously. It's one of the best parts about the place. Izuku sniffled. The bookshelf was my idea, Mr. Carl chimed in. I love that too. Izuku exclaimed, dragging Shinso over and wrapping them both in a hug. Newly formed tears ran down his cheeks. Thank you. You still haven't seen your room yet. Shinso pointed with his free hand to the door wedged between the bookshelves. The room behind the door was open plan, except for the bathroom and two bedrooms. The kitchen was large and had a light aesthetic, with dark blue tiling. It featured an island with a multitude of cabinets. Most kitchen utilities were placed against the wall, with a sink situated between the fridge and 3 ovens. A large pantry stood next to the bright yellow fridge. White wooden floorboards covered the rest of the floor, except for the bedrooms. A curved red couch was positioned close to the furthest wall, with a dark brown coffee table on a purple rug. A television was mounted on the wall facing the couch, while behind it sat a desk and a large wooden board. The guest bedroom had a wardrobe, a king-sized bed, and a side table. Izuku's bedroom was similar, featuring a large king-sized bed against the wall, a dark brown side table with a kitty hero lamp beside it, and a large wardrobe facing the next room's workspace. The bathroom had a tub, shower, toilet, and sink. The entire living space had no windows but was illuminated by light bulbs. So what do you think? Shinso asked. I love it. You shouldn't have done all of this for me. Izuku exclaimed. Well, that's the thing, kid. You're family to us and you deserve the best. Mr. Carl said bluntly. Well, it looks like I've got baking to do for tomorrow. Izuku felt a grin spread across his face. Oh, let me help. Shinso grinned. No. You'll eat them all before they get put out. Izuku replied. Don't you think I deserve some since we did all of this for you? No. Izuku clambered over rooftops at full speed, his secret gift in hand. He sprinted further, stopping on the roof of the apartment complex before slowly walking to the edge and plopping himself down, legs swinging back and forth. He hummed quietly to himself, waiting for his companion to show up. His daily patrol hours would begin in an hour, but the gift in hand was more important. A quiet thump behind him informed Izuku of his approaching companion. You're out early, kid. Did something happen? Eraserhead asked, concern lacing his words. No, Izuku replied. So why are you out here so early? Eraserhead approached, placing himself close to Izuku and eyeing him suspiciously. I brought something for you to try, Izuku stuttered. Really? What did you bring for me? Izuku had Eraserhead's full attention now, making him want to curl up and hide. Slowly, Izuku revealed a small container of vibrant green. Fumbling slightly, he handed it over to Aizawa. The kid's head was looking down at the lively streets below. Taking the lid off carefully, inside sat the cutest cupcakes, with icing shaped like cats, complete with whiskers and little pink noses. Aizawa took one bite and it was amazing. He shot a glance at the kid. They're caffeine-flavored, Izuku said, giving him a soft smile as he recognized Aizawa's expression. I thought since you practically live off of caffeine, you might like them. But I understand if they're terrible. It's delicious. It's so thoughtful of you, kid. Aizawa returned the smile, and Izuku's face lit up. I can't believe I said that to him. I messed up big time, Shinso. He probably hates me now. Izuku lamented, a ball of green fluff rocking himself in an attempt to soothe his panicked heart. Look, Green Bean, I'm sure it's fine. You may have surprised him with the nickname, Shinso reassured his brother. After almost 2 years of friendship, Shinso had learned that tears from Izuku meant the world was crumbling. At that moment, tears were falling. Why don't we get the shop set up? Shinso gently bumped his shoulder against Izuku's. Yeah. I'll just start working and forget about it. Izuku walked confidently out. A few moments later, the phone rang. Hey, Izuku. Why you calling me again? Shinso asked, needing his beauty sleep. Eraserhead is here. I don't know what to do. Can you come and take over for me? Nope. Shinso hung up. Izuku muttered in frustration, What can I get you, hero? A bitter coffee. Do you have anything depressing to read? Eraserhead huffed, his face showing frustration. I think this one is a good suggestion. It's about past wars and how veterans dealt with the trauma. Izuku took the book off the shelf and quickly handed it over to Eraserhead. Nice shop you have here. It's nice that it's open this early in the morning, Eraserhead commented as Izuku focused on making the coffee, nerves sending him intense flight messages. Yeah. My friends helped me renovate it, Izuku stuttered, hands fidgeting. Why is the place called Sunshine? Oh, because they're a hero, aren't they? Even though they're an illegal hero, they've made a huge difference. They saved me, so I owe them. Izuku gave a soft smile. Here's your bitter coffee, and that will be 500 yen. Here. With that, Eraserhead left. 1 week later, Izuku answered his untraceable phone, having made sure no one could locate him. His information was far too important that, in the wrong hands, it could end everything. Is this Green Bean? What would you like to order? We have special prices only for today, especially on our analysis books. Izuku replied, spinning his pen around his fingers. I need to find someone, the person on the other side asked gruffly. Who? They go by the name Sunshine. Oh, the infamous Vigilante. Why would you want to find them? Izuku asked, his interest piqued. They've been missing their patrols for the past week. The last part was cut out. I can find them, but I need to know who I'm giving this information to. Izuku asked, leaning in with anticipation. Eraserhead. Sheet. Izuku's head screamed. I can find him. Though what exactly do you want to know? If he's okay. I don't need any personal information, just maybe give him a message from me. Eraserhead's voice softened. He cares about me. A soft smile spread across his face. Hey, Eraserhead. Your message has been received loud and clear. I'll see you on patrol tonight. Wait, kid. Don't hang up. Eraserhead shouted at the phone. Boop. Izuku felt a cheeky grin spreading further. He is so going to kill me. Locking in his gauntlets and double-checking every pocket for its intended contents, Sunshine declared, ready to take on the world. Dark clothing allowed him to merge into the shadows, his visor scanning the vicinity. Cat ears picked up the slightest of noises, building an image of the landscape. The city was extremely quiet tonight, Sunshine thought to himself. Shuffling up a drainpipe, he reached the rooftops, his home. A smile grew as he bolted in one direction, the nighttime cooling down his warming body. By the time he'd reached the right rooftop, he'd already stopped 4 crimes and had a casual conversation with a crying kid. He spotted the recognizable black-clothed figure with a white scarf tightly wrapped around his neck. Hey, Eraserhead. Sorry I'm late. What are you doing? Eraserhead's capture weapon was wrapped around him, trapping his arms. You are one seriously problematic child. Eraserhead scolded, large bags under his eyes. You're seriously mad at me, aren't you? Sunshine's head hung limp, barely a whisper escaping his lips. Yes and no. How long have you been an information broker, kid? Eraserhead sighed, eyeing Sunshine carefully. Not long after I became a vigilante, Sunshine shrugged. Seriously? You really are a problem child. Anything else I need to know about you? Eraserhead pinched the bridge of his nose, sighing heavily. If I had more, it would be personal, and I'm not quite ready to tell you. Sunshine grinned cheekily. Eraserhead glared at the child, but his mood shifted at the sight of Sunshine's smile. So when would I be told? I don't know. Depends on how desperate you are to find out. The helmet hid Sunshine's face, which he was recognized for, other than his fluffy tail. However, Eraserhead just knew the suspicious eyes he was receiving from the younger. How about this? We play a game that will lead you to my civilian self. I will give you a clue, and if you give up, then our relationship will remain the same as it was before. Seriously, Eraserhead grumbled, his face sinking into his scarf. DMN problem, kid. But if that's the way he wants to play, then this could be fine. Fire away. A smirk formed on Eraserhead's lips. I knew you'd bite. This game will begin at next year's UA entrance exam, but you can decipher the riddle while waiting. I will provide a clue each month. His fluffy tail wagged like an excited puppy. Eraserhead smiled softly at Sunshine's childish behavior, sometimes forgetting how young the kid was. Oh, also, you can get help from people. Sounds good. Now, what's this clue? Later that evening, Izawa groaned, scribbling out another one of his failing theories. I can't believe this kid. You okay, Sho? Hizashi walked in, looking over his husband's shoulder with a soft smile on his face. No. The kid gave me a game instead of a name. Izawa groaned louder, his head hitting the back of the couch. Ha! This kid really likes to drive you up the walls. Hizashi laughed, letting his arms drape over Izawa's shoulders. Though I'm sure he'll give you more hints. Maybe Nizu will be able to help. Yeah, I guess getting that rat to help might be my only option for the time being. Izawa slumped onto the desk, groaning once again. Why don't you and I go to sleep and in the morning give Nizu a ring? Hizashi suggested. Fine. Izawa huffed, picking himself up and leaving a mess of papers in the living room. Izawa sighed as he met with Nizu the next day. So Izawa, I hear you've been struggling to wrangle that child of yours. Nizu smirked, sipping his tea peacefully. We both know he isn't my kid, yet, but yes, I am struggling to figure out what this means. Izawa huffed, turning his head to look at the wall instead of the principal. Really? What kind of information? Nizu leaned in intrigued. I'm not telling him about the kid's other full-time jobs. If those two met in person, it would be the end of the world. Izawa groaned, pulling out a slip of paper tucked away in his capture weapon. He gave me a clue that will apparently lead me to his civilian self. But that's the thing, his clue isn't very descriptive. So I was hoping you'd be able to help me. Izawa murmured the last part. Well, this is tricky. Nizu held a calm expression while scanning the paper multiple times. It sounds like you need to find something that has purple in UA, and that will lead you to the location called Sunshine. There are only 3 places that have the name Sunshine in Mizudafu. I know, but there are multiple places that have Sunshine in their names. Izawa snapped. What if this place doesn't have anything else in its name except for Sunshine? Would Sunshine really make it the obvious? Nizu said mostly to himself. I really don't have a clue anymore. Izawa huffed, pinching the bridge of his nose in frustration. He'd been doing this more as of late. The kid was probably the main reason for this new habit of his. Well, we better start figuring out this purple object then. Find it, then we find Sunshine. Nizu chirped, writing down the clue for himself and then handing the piece of paper. 4 months later, 2 months left until the new UA year starts. Izawa scowled as he kicked a rock out of frustration. It had been 4 months since the kid gave him that riddle, and he was no closer to figuring it out than he was 4 months ago. Darn kid. He just had to make this difficult. Izawa paused in front of a fairly new cafe on Elm Street. The kid had given 4 other clues to help narrow down the search, but even that didn't help. Find the color purple, and that will lead him to Sunshine. They like the color purple. This was the first clue given and would be the most troublesome to find. If Aizawa were to ask every single student what their favorite color was, it would be seriously awkward. Even asking the principal for this information would be a serious breach of privacy. They have an emitter-type quirk. The second clue didn't help limit down the candidates. Look for a place filled with heroes and villains. A prison, maybe. A gym. An underground fighting arena. A multitude of possible places filled Aizawa's mind. This one even had Nisa stumped. It's often open all day and all night. Yeah, nope. Aizawa had no actual clue. Maybe he should just give up already. The kid's game seemed impossible. Walking up to the doors, a quiet ring announced his entrance. The smell of cinnamon and coffee wafted to his nose. A couple of customers sat at the tables, some talking amongst themselves while others stared off into the distance. "Hello. What can I get you?" A cheerful voice interrupted Aizawa's wandering thoughts. "Oh, a bitter coffee, please." Aizawa looked towards the hero and villain-covered wall, then down towards the baked goods. A familiar cat cupcake sat staring up at him. Excuse me, could I also get 2 of those cat cupcakes?" "Oh yeah." A few minutes later, Aizawa had a takeout cup filled with bitter coffee and a paper bag with 2 cat cupcakes. Walking the rest of the way home, he pondered the clues. He knew giving up wasn't an option. He would just have to cling to his sanity for a bit longer. Around midday, the sunshine was at its least busy, giving Izuku time to train Shinso. Shinso already knew about the game Izuku was playing with Eraserhead and was willing to play along. "So I get to mess with a pro hero. Sounds fun, I'm in. What do I have to do?" Izuku was grateful to Shinso as his brother. He wouldn't have anybody else. In return for helping him mess with Eraserhead, Izuku trained Shinso in hand-to-hand combat. Shinso wanted to become a hero and had been pressing Izuku to join him, but it wasn't for Izuku. Right now, Shinso was pinned underneath Izuku, his arm locked in an uncomfortable position. "Again. You nearly got me." Izuku stood back, hands up and ready to defend. Deflecting a left punch, he rolled up Shinso's arm and disappeared behind him. Shinso spun around, but he was too slow with his left leg kick and ended up on the ground once again. "If I were anybody else, I would have thought you're lazy with your footing or just love the ground," Izuku teased, a cheeky grin spreading across his freckled cheeks. "Ha! Very funny, Izuku. Now help me up. You seriously need to work on mixing up your style, brother. You can't just punch or just kick. You're going to need both, especially when taking on an opponent as skilled as me." Izuku bragged. "Yeah, Your Highness. Emperor of martial arts." Shinso bowed, a cheeky grin on his face. "You may stand, my loyal student." Izuku replied in a posh voice, flicking his wrist dramatically, and the two burst out laughing. "Hi, can I get something?" "Well, work awaits. See you tomorrow, Shinso." Izuku waved his brother away, greeting a customer and taking orders until 6 at night. Izuku's day never ends, but he wouldn't have it any other way. A whole week had passed since he'd located this gang and began to track their every move. The gang called themselves the Tiggers, a name that seemed lackluster compared to other gangs in the area. However, it was a name nonetheless. Sunshine had sent Eraserhead and the police the entire file he'd compiled on this small gang. There were only 20 members in this gang, 8 with mutation quirks, 7 with emitter quirks, and 5 transformation quirk users. The gang heads weren't too impressive, except maybe their leader. Name, Red Quirk. Wolverine description. Like the Wolverine, the user has the stamina, strength, and will of the Wolverine. The will is the Wolverine's constant determination to fight anything bigger than it and not back down. Sunshine sat perched upon the old warehouse's roof, watching a gang of dealers moving their assets to a secure location. Such fools, he thought, his excitement building. Should I attack now? Or wait for Eraserdad to get here? A grin spread across his face. The first it is. He smirked and leaped off the roof, bow staff in hand, landing in the middle of the bustling gang. Shouldn't you all be in bed right now? Only criminals are up at this hour. A wicked grin spread across his lips, hidden by his helmet. Why, you little filly? Sunshine swung his staff full circle, tripping most of the gang outside. A couple hit the concrete hard, while others were stunned. Damn it. What the hell is going on out here? Red's voice boomed as his heavy boots clunked against the concrete. A few other gang members were drawn in by the sudden commotion. Sunshine quickly dispatched the remaining members on the ground, striking their heads with his staff, careful not to cause any fatalities. I was just about to come in there and get you myself. Sunshine spun around, revealing a Cheshire grin. Take care of him, Wraith. Red waved, turning his back on Sunshine to continue ordering his men. Rude. Sunshine pouted. But I guess you will do for the time being. His grin returned as he anticipated Eraserhead's arrival, along with the police. Wraith, as tall as All Might, charged at Sunshine, hyper-focused on getting rid of him. Sunshine propelled himself at Wraith, whipping out a smoke bomb and pulling the pin. The thick smoke blinded Wraith, giving Sunshine the upper hand. Yo, Shrimp. You gonna put up a fight or what? Wraith snapped, trying to clear the fog with a barrage of punches. Turning on his heightened vision, Sunshine continued toward Wraith, pulling the pin on his latest creation, a stun grenade. Leaping up, he landed on Wraith's shoulders, the timer counting down. He let the grenade's sticky bottom attach itself to Wraith's face before twisting out of a recoiling arm. With a spasm of muscles, Wraith collapsed to the ground, incapacitated. Sorry, Oph, but I have bigger fish to fry. A scanner pinged, indicating that police cars and a rather annoyed Eraserhead were heading his way. Better make this quick before he forces me to take a back seat. A cheeky grin crossed Sunshine's face. Eraserhead scowled as he rushed to the scene. Damn it, kid. Just wait for me for once. Worried about the kid, huh, Eraserhead? Kenji Tsuragami snickered, while Naomasa grumbled about vigilantes and illegal activity. Upon arrival, they found unconscious gang members scattered around the warehouse. We'll begin arresting and identifying the corpses. You head inside, Kenji instructed. Eraserhead sighed, ignoring Naomasa's comment. Now where is he? As soon as he entered the building, he spotted Sunshine. The kid swiftly ducked from a sharp right hook, sweeping Wraith's feet out from under him. Red caught himself with his hands and bucked at Sunshine. Leaning backward, Sunshine ended up in a bridge pose before flipping back up, narrowly avoiding a barrage of other attacks. Kid! Eraserhead shouted, sending out his capture weapon. It wrapped around Red's wrist, allowing Eraserhead to pull him away from Sunshine and secure him tightly. About time. Sunshine replied with a scoff, though relief was evident in his voice. He pushed off the wall, sprinting toward Eraserhead and pulling the pin from another stun grenade, sticking it to Red's forehead. You may want to release him for this. Sunshine shot a cheeky grin at Eraserhead. Eraserhead rolled his eyes, wondering what the kid had cooked up this time. A short buzz later, Red was left spasming on the ground, and Sunshine's grin grew wicked. Well, that was something. The two walked out quietly, but Sunshine instantly ran off, knowing how Naomasa felt about vigilantes. See you later, Eraserhead. Damn it, kid, don't run off. Eraserhead called after him, but Sunshine was already gone. Sunshine sat upon a nearby rooftop, watching Eraserhead deal with the aftermath. Another successful night, if I say so myself, he grinned to himself. I wonder how long it will take before he gives up this little game. It would be nice to have a proper family again. Aizawa sat on his tattered couch, paper littering the ground. His mind wandered as he contemplated the future. What could all this mean? Will the kid be attending the UA entrance exam, or will somebody else? Aizawa's brow furrowed as he recalled a memory from the past. A year ago, Aizawa sat with Sunshine in their usual spot on Broccoli Road, sharing cold cheese and mince pies. Sunshine never really cared what food Aizawa brought, as long as it was edible. Of course, Aizawa had to gain Sunshine's trust before they could sit like this. It had been a few months since Sunshine lost his only remaining family, though he reassured Aizawa that he had a place to call home for the time being. The two talked about heroes' advantages, disadvantages, and how to improve their quirks. Of course, someone with a fire-type quirk needs to work on their water resistance. But other quirks, like hardening, can counter fire-type quirks. Sunshine paused as he took another bite of his pie, happily humming to himself. Speaking of heroes, when will you be applying to UA? Aizawa asked, turning to see the younger boy's reaction. Sunshine snorted. Never will be. How come? Aizawa nearly dropped his pie with how fast Sunshine replied. Why not consider joining? You'd make an amazing hero. Yeah, that's the thing. I'm already a hero. I don't need a license to show I completed a faulty education system. I have real-life experience. Shouldn't that be enough? Sunshine paused, turning to give Aizawa his signature smile. Don't you think? I can agree with the education system being faulty, but you should still consider it. Just because you have experience doesn't mean you know everything, Aizawa scolded. Wait a minute. You haven't dropped out of school, have you? Yeah. You're still so young. Are you even legally able to drop out? Aizawa turned, shocked at the sudden development. Yes. I wasn't going to explain every injury to my teacher. It would mean revealing how I am, leading to everyone I care about being put in danger. So yeah. Sunshine huffed. Besides, I have a job. It pays, so I can't complain. The kid shrugged, keeping his eyes glued to the bustling city street. Well, that's something positive to hear. Still, you should consider it. It would make what you're doing legal. Aizawa gave up pestering the kid about the importance of education. Returning to the present, Aizawa sighed, leaning back to see a ginger cat peering down at him. Hello, Tangerine, any ideas? Tangerine tilted her head to the side before meowing cheerfully, rubbing her face against his. Thank you, but that wasn't what I was asking for. Aizawa sighed even louder this time. But I won't give up on the kid, I will win his game. Ain't that right, Tangerine? And so Aizawa spent the rest of the evening giving affection to Tangerine, distracting himself from Sunshine's game. Walking down Elm Street, Aizawa headed toward Sunshine. The thought of baked goods plagued his mind. He had recently been coming here every week, buying cat-shaped cupcakes for his husband and himself. It added some excitement to his week when everything else was stressful. DMN that kid and his game. Why can't he just tell me his name? Aizawa had been complaining to his husband, who bore the brunt of Aizawa's frustrations. Nizu had a monthly catch-up where they'd try to dissect the clues. By this point, anything would do. As he walked past the window, he saw the restaurant owner teaching martial arts to his sibling. Just because the guy was short didn't mean he couldn't toss you over his shoulder. The guy was built like a machine, yet he had a kind personality. Good evening, Mr. Aizawa. The usual. Izuku greeted Aizawa as he demonstrated a move on his student. Yes, please. You seriously need to improve those skills, especially since your quirk doesn't physically help you in a fight, Izuku preached to his student, who, if Aizawa remembered correctly, was named Shinso. Have you got him yet? Aizawa asked Shinso. Nope. Shinso stood up, rubbing his back, groaning slightly. Green bean, I think you may have broken something this time. Don't start, Shinso. You're fine. I made sure I didn't break or sprain anything. However, you may have a bruise. Izuku rolled his eyes as he shifted around the makeshift work area. Here's your takeout, bitter coffee and 2 cat caffeine cakes. Izuku gave him a soft smile as Aizawa handed over the cash. Have a good day. Thank you. Aizawa exited the doors only to resume watching the two spar. They had bow staffs, and Izuku took Shinso through the movements step by step, making sure Shinso memorized them before moving to the next. It reminded him of the first time he met Sunshine. The kid was reciting the steps while breaking a criminal's nose. He found it funny how calm the kid had been while doing it. 4 years earlier, Aizawa was on his late-night patrol in the scummy region of Mizudafu. He was running over the rooftops because he'd heard a ruckus nearby. Reaching the location, he looked down to see a small person dressed in black fighting men twice his size. A retractable bow staff in hand, muttering the steps as he swung it, sending a man flying into a trash can. Another man ended up with a broken nose and hand. Aizawa decided to step in, hoping to stop the beatings from getting worse. However, they stopped, their voice distorted through a helmet. I hope you've learned your lesson. But the police will be here soon, so I suggest getting ready for your real punishment. They taunted. Enjoy prison. They shimmied up the closest drain pipe, leading them to the rooftop. Aizawa made his mind up and sent out his capture weapon, which was dodged, and the figure turned in shock. Sheet. A low curse, but Aizawa still heard them. You will be arrested with them for illegal behavior, Aizawa said, closing the distance between him and the figure. Really? Can we not do this tonight? The figure groaned. Well, bye. They took off at full speed, leaving Aizawa to sigh. They always chose the hard way. This became his new phrase for the kid. The two of them would constantly bump into each other for the next few months, leading to Aizawa bolting after the newly named Vigilante, Sunshine. Aizawa only stopped chasing the kid after the Oni incident. One more month, just 1 month left, then the game would begin. Izuku yawned as he wiped down the tables. He had closed half an hour ago and was finishing his day by cleaning the surfaces. Izuku Midoriya, previously known as Midoriya, was 14 years old and approaching 15. He had seen and done many things, but today felt different. January 13th, early night for us tonight, Izuku muttered to himself, his mind racing as he realized he had forgotten something. It's the anniversary of his death. Izuku hated January 13th because it reminded him of all his failures, including his very existence. In a rush, he dashed to the back of the cafe, grabbed his gym bag, and sprinted out the door, pulling on his coat as he went. He made his way to the graveyard, where the archway had white paint peeling off, revealing the textured stone beneath. Swinging open the loose iron gate, he followed the old, tattered stone path. The weeds that had been recently removed were piled up next to the main entrance. As he walked slowly through the graveyard, emotions swirled within him, sadness, anger, and joy. This day often left him feeling overly emotional. January 13th marked the day between both Mr. Midoriya's and his mother's death. It felt like a streak of bad luck that only Izuku seemed to endure. Shaking his head, he stopped at their graves. A small, curved gravestone bore Mr. Midoriya's initials, with a glass vase waiting for new flowers. He pulled out a bouquet of blue irises from his gym bag. I brought you blue irises again. Thank you for the hope and faith you gave me. I wouldn't still be walking on this earth without you. Izuku tried to smile, but tears began to fall. His mother's grave sat beside Mr. Midoriya's, marked by a marble angel statue with arms outstretched. It reminded him of the days they spent cuddling on the couch, watching underdog movies until they both fell. He placed a bouquet of camellias and carnations at the feet of the angel. As the clouds finally broke, rain poured down, drenching Izuku and chilling him to the bone. His purple hair clung to his face. He hated January 13th because it reminded him of those who had left him. Do you have everything packed, Shinso? Izuku asked his brother. Yes, Green Bean, I have everything, Shinso replied playfully, shoving his retractable bow staff into his pouch. We've had this conversation already. My hair isn't green anymore. Izuku pouted. I know, Shinso shrugged, slinging his bag onto his back. I'm heading out now. Do you want to walk there with me? No, sorry, I have to open the store in a few minutes. But I'll meet up with you after the entrance exam. Okay. Shinso kicked the floor. But don't overwork yourself today, got it? Got it? Now go show those stuck-ups who's boss. You've got this, Shinso. Izuku cheered. Shut up, Green Bean. You're embarrassing me. Shinso hissed as Izuku waved goodbye. So the game begins. Meanwhile, Aizawa sat cross-legged, fingers tapping the coffee table, annoyance radiating from him. Hey Shota, could you dial back on the attitude? You're putting me and the cats on edge, Hizashi pleaded, draping his arms over Aizawa's shoulders. Aizawa growled quietly but complied, closing the lid of his laptop. So still no luck finding the one dressed in purple. What about the kid with the purple stripes? Or the hoodie-wearing kid? Hizashi tried to help but eventually made Aizawa's mood worse. No, was his blunt answer. Okay. The two now sat on the couch in awkward silence. Oh, what about the kid with purple hair? He had an emitter quirk too. That's got to be a serious contender. Hizashi gave his signature smile, blonde hair down. No wait, you might have a point there. I was looking back at the footage of him, and I thought his fighting style looked familiar. He fights with a bow staff. Just like the kid. Hizashi chimed in. Exactly. He must have been trained by Sunshine. Aizawa's smile grew. Which means we can ask him. Hisashi paused. Where sunshine is. Both said at the same time, breaking out into laughter. Thank you. I really needed that. Aizawa planted a soft kiss on Hisashi's forehead. Though asking the kid will have to wait, I have to plan for the school year. Aizawa let out a long sigh, leaning back on the couch. You could just get the information about this purple-haired kid from Nizu, you know. Hisashi called after his husband, who was fast asleep. Never mind. Aizawa read up on his files. Shinso Hitoshi, emergency contacts other than the Sunshine Cafe owner. He seemed pretty normal for a teenager. He'd seen Izuku, the cafe owner, training Shinso when picking up his daily order. Meaning Izuku must have been trained by Sunshine, so he must know Sunshine. Now all Aizawa had to do was find the free time to go there and have a conversation. Obviously, Sunshine had this thought through to the tiniest of details. Why did it have to be this kid? Aizawa grumbled as he sunk deeper into his cocoon. Shinso walked towards Class 1A with his bag slung over his shoulder. His motto was, I'll prove to them that even villainous quirks can be used for good. I can do this, nothing can stop me. As soon as he slid the door to 1A open, he was greeted by a scene of Ida Tenya scolding Bakugo Katsuki. A scowl crossed Shinso's face. He'd heard the stories about the bullying quirkless received and knew about his brother's childhood friend. I hate that guy, Shinso muttered to himself. I know. He's really a piece of work. A short, round-faced girl popped up beside him. I guess it's nice to know somebody else agrees with me. Shinso eyed her suspiciously. Oh right. My name is Uraraka Ochako. You helped me with the large robot. Uraraka introduced herself. Oh, I remember you now. Gravity Girl. My name is Shinso Hitoshi. Shinso greeted politely. Ida, apparently giving up on counseling Bakugo, walked towards Uraraka and Shinso but stopped. Shock crossed his face. Something was moving behind them. Wiping out his bow staff, Shinso spun around, staff retracting to its full length. Freezing as he recognized Eraserhead. Oh, it's you. Shinso relaxed, pointing his staff towards the ground. You shouldn't have a weapon on school premises nor threaten another person. Ida lectured. I know, but it's just reflexes, Shinso dismissed, returning his attention to Eraserhead. I hope you don't have anything against me for my actions. Nope, Aizawa bluntly said. However, it took you a whole 8 seconds to quiet down, and that will be a problem. Also, I am Shoyuda Aizawa, your teacher. Everyone was just staring at Aizawa, shock plastered to their faces except for Shinso. He expected that from the one and only Eraserhead. Another year begins at UA with a new batch of wannabe heroes beginning their journey with the strictest teacher. He had other things on his mind than teaching wannabe heroes. Sunshine crashed through the glass roof, armor taking the brunt of the damage. The lackeys below were shaking in their boots, choosing to drop their cargo and run. Grappling hook flying out of his gauntlet, catching the furthest lackey's leg, tripping him up and causing a chain reaction. So, Sunshine, I see you found us once again. A nasty man with a contagious grin greeted Sunshine formally. I see your jail time was cut short again, Roach, Sunshine taunted, posing sassily. You never lose your flair, do you? Roach commented. Oh well, I guess we must battle it out to decide a victor. Like always, you get straight to the point, Roach. No other villain seems to get that. That's why you're my favorite pest. Sunshine complimented, and Roach grimaced before replacing it with his signature smirk. Always with the taunting, Sunshine. You must seriously have nothing better to do if you're chasing around low-level criminals. I take care of the small fries so the heroes can focus on the bigger problems. Sunshine got himself into a ready stance, hands reaching for his bow staff. Roach, a low-level criminal, had a quirk that gave him Cockroach's insane immortality. If he knew how to use his quirk to its fullest, he'd be a high-level villain, Sunshine mentally commented to himself as he ducked a lousy right punch. Swiftly sweeping Roach off of his feet, he heard the satisfying crunch of Roach's head hitting the solid ground, then proceeded to hit his head hard to ensure he was out. Sunshine double-checked for a pulse before ringing the police. Hi, this is Sunshine reporting in. Oh, it's you, Naomasa picked up on the other end. Also, you're not a legal hero. You should have been arrested years ago. But what do you want, Vigilante? I have some low-level criminals you may want to get behind bars. They were harboring the drag trigger. I'll remain here till you show up. Though you may want to hurry, some of them are waking up. Sunshine chimed happily, hanging up the phone. It's always nice to mess with Naomasa, but let's get straight to the point, Roach. Why the sudden blackout in crime? Sunshine bent down to face his opponent, who was tied up to a pillar in the building. Answer my questions and you won't have to speak to the police. Oh, how nice of you, but you'll just give them the information. Roach rolled his eyes, not falling for that trick again. Shame. What are you going to give me? Sunshine tilted his head. If I spill, I will be putting my life on the line, you know that, don't you? He slumped his head slightly but tilted it up to read Sunshine's mask movements. You have a point there, but I'll ensure you're safe and I won't tell the police. Scout's honor. Roach glared at him. Okay, fine. Now you can read my expression. I won't tell anyone where I got the information from. Sunshine let his mask mouth guard slide back, revealing his freckled cheeks. Though can you keep a secret? A devilish grin spread across his face. Do you know of the League of Villains? Roach's eyes were glued to the ground. They've been hiring lower criminals for an attack. I can presume it has something to do with All Might. But that's all I've got. They tried to hire me a couple of weeks ago. Roach continued. The Tigers would have more information about LOV than me. Well then, thank you for your cooperation. Have a nice time in a jail cell. Hopefully, you'll learn this time. Sunshine's mouth guard slid back into place, replacing his sunny expression with an unreadable mask. He watched as the police finally arrived on the scene, Naomasa waltzing in with a grim expression plastered on his face. He was obviously frustrated about the vigilante escaping again and being left on cleanup duty. If only they all knew his behavior wasn't illegal since he had no quirk. Yet the destruction of property and breaking and entering would still be on his file if he handed himself in, not something he wanted to deal with, especially since he now had plans for the next couple of weeks. Hunt down any other sources that might have information on the attack being planned by LOV. This led Sunshine to another problem. Messaging All Might about the possible threat to his life. He sprinted across the rooftops, leaping over ventilation systems and railings, running home to try and get some rest for his busy day job, which started in 5 hours. Just great. Fate is always throwing someone else at me, never considering that I might just want to sleep. Sunshine groaned as he landed in the alleyway beside his cafe and the bookshop next door. Pulling out his keys and unlocking his newly installed back door, Izuku trudged inside. He locked the door behind him, took off his shoes, and set a timer for 3 hours. He lifted off his helmet after entering his password and placed it carefully away in a small storage unit before collapsing, still dressed, onto the couch and drifting off soundlessly. Sunshine, sunshine, sunshine. Aizawa's thoughts raced as he finally reached Elm Street. Finally. He let out an exasperated sigh. So what did he know about this Izuku Midoriya? His hair is purple, which ticks one of the boxes. He trained Shinso personally, and his fighting style resembles Sunshine's. So he must have an emitter quirk that makes him practically quirkless in a fight. Another tick. He runs a cafe called Sunshine, another tick. It's open from 5 a.m. till about 10:30 p.m., so almost all day. His right wall is covered in heroes and villains. The realization hit him like a ton of bricks. Had it been that obvious? He'd been coming here for months now. Oh, Mr. Aizawa, I haven't seen you around lately. Izuku greeted him cheerfully as he continued to clean one of his many mugs. Do you want the usual? No. Oh, so what do you want then? Izuku asked, puzzled. I need to talk to you about something in private. Aizawa said. Izuku replied, stopping what he was doing and focusing his full attention on Aizawa. Go on. It's related to a current case I'm working on. Oh. Well, I don't finish work till 10:30, so if you can wait till then. Unless it's seriously urgent. Izuku tilted his head like a puppy, placing the mug down. Aizawa had his full attention now. The intensity in his eyes made Aizawa feel slightly unsettled. It's about a certain vigilante that has been causing trouble for the past 5 to 6 years. I was hoping you'd be able to help, Aizawa said. But Izuku nodded slowly. So it's urgent? No. Aizawa let out a quiet sigh. Izuku sensed Aizawa was struggling with this conversation, which could play in his favor. Oh, well then it can wait, can't it? I can't just close up shop for no reason. Izuku said bluntly. I know, but it's important. Aizawa almost begged. But not urgent, so can we sort this out in a month? I have a busy schedule at the moment, and it's taking up all of my time. Izuku said with a nervous smile. I have to find and maybe even stop Ovi, and I can't have you biting at my heels at the moment. Izuku thought to himself. Okay, well then I'll give you my contact details, and text me when you're sorted. Aizawa said reluctantly as he handed over his phone number. Well, have a nice day. Izuku waved as Aizawa left the cafe, letting out a loud sigh once Aizawa was out of view. I will stop them, and you can't rescue me yet. And like that, he returned to cleaning his mugs, a shy smile on his face. 12:30 p.m., and everyone was sound asleep. Mizudafu was quiet once again, and this worried Sunshine. Something was going on, and he had to get to the bottom of it. Dashing over the rooftops of the sleeping city, Sunshine headed towards his target, his mind wandering about what kind of entrance he should make. However, he soon discarded the idea. He would just be Sunshine. Shinso often joked about Sunshine being a different person, but Izuku had never really seen it that way until he watched a video of Sunshine in combat. Then he noticed the difference. Though he saw no reason to change, he considered bringing more of Sunshine's persona into his daily life for sticky situations. However, he needed to dial back on the sass when he was Izuku Magoff. Otherwise, people would get suspicious. The warehouses came into view. Slowing down to conserve his stamina, Sunshine came to a complete halt upon seeing no lackeys around. What is going on here? He thought, suddenly on edge. I need backup and fast. With one swift motion, Izuku pulled out his phone and dialed his emergency contact. What is it, problem child? You do realize the time, Eraserhead started. I know, but something is wrong and I need your help. It's urgent, Sunshine stuttered, not liking to ask for help. He usually had everything under control. However, this situation called for assistance. I'll be right there. Hang tight. Don't move unless necessary, but don't engage. Eraserhead hung up, his voice laced with worry. Thank you, Sunshine muttered to himself. Please get here soon, Eraserhead. Unable to help himself, he began to scout the area for anything suspicious, but nothing turned up. This has trouble written all over it. Finding an open window below and realizing Eraserhead hadn't arrived yet, he thought, if I don't move now, whatever is happening will be over. Scolding himself for his stubbornness, he landed quietly beside the window. Letting a long wire with a camera attached slither inside, he watched his monitor. No one is guarding the window. I can use this to get in. A few minutes away, Eraserhead was running full speed towards Sunshine's location, worries plaguing his mind. Come on, run faster. The kid needs me. He's already taken action by now, knowing him. His voice said everything. I have to get there before something bad happens. Eraserhead landed on the warehouse's roof just in time to see a certain yellow-tailed vigilante burst through the front doors. Kid. Eraserhead landed beside Sunshine, scanning him for any major injuries. I'm fine. You need to stop them. Sunshine slurred, struggling to function as BLD leaked from under his helmet. Kid, you need to stay seated. You may have a minor concussion, and pushing it won't help you. Eraserhead was struggling to keep himself under control. He was determined not to lose another person to a villain. Hey hobo. Step away from the pest. He got caught eavesdropping and needs to be punished. A deep voice cackled, stepping out of the shadows. The man wore a decaying hand over his face, with many more scattered across his body. Straggly gray hair hung over cracked, snow-white skin, and red eyes were highlighted by his deathly pallor. Did you do this to him? Eraserhead growled, clinging to Sunshine. He was not going to lose anyone else to a villain. Why would you care, hobo? Unless you're a hero. The man paused, scanning Eraserhead. I know you. You're that underground hero called, what was it again? Hobo man. Homeless. Eraserhead gritted his teeth, clicking the emergency call button on his phone. The authorities have been alerted. I just have to hold off this guy, then the kid can get the care he needs. It's Eraserhead, villain. I'll be taking you in now, he stated bluntly, positioning himself between Sunshine and the villain, hands reaching for his capture weapon, ready for the fight ahead. Now this will be interesting. That kid barely put up a fight, but you won't fail to entertain me, will you? A few minutes before Eraserhead arrived, Sunshine had slipped through the window after getting the all-clear. Grappling up onto a balcony that was out of sight, he crouched low, letting his black suit blend into the shadows. So then, Tigers, what are you up to? Sunshine scanned the perimeter, memorizing faces for the police in case they fled. He spotted Red walking into a small workspace, accompanied by another figure, as his thermal vision informed him. Found them. With a triumphant look under his mask, Sunshine began his stealthy climb towards the workspace, clinging to every shadow and wall until he reached the steps leading to his target. No shelter, goddammit. Sunshine cursed internally. He had to play his hand, though that could cause his target to flee. The wire from earlier snaked up the stairs, slithering through a crack in the wall. Hiding safely close by, Sunshine observed the interaction between Red and the other figure. I take it you know why I'm here. The shadowy figure asked, their voice gruff and their figure skeletal. Though my only question is, what does the Tiger Gang get out of this? Red asked, his stance ready for action. Good question. How about the end of the number one hero and civilians' hope? The figure stated. They don't really sell it, buddy. The death of one hero and civilians' hope isn't in the Tiger's best interest. Then what is? I need more men and less hero interference. Your plan for All Might's demise doesn't help the Tigers at all. You're just getting rid of one problem. Not all heroes. So no. We don't have a deal. Red crossed his arms stubbornly. Oh, I was hoping you'd join us. But I guess we'll just have to go to Plan B then. Taking you out and taking over your gang. The figure suddenly charged at Red, hands slamming into his defensive stance. Red let out a horrifying scream, kicking open his workspace door and screaming orders at his men to attack Tamura Shigaraki. Before he could react, a hand gripped his skull, and everything went dark. Sheet! Sunshine cursed under his breath. Things had escalated quickly, and if he didn't act, it would turn into chaos. Jumping out of his hiding spot, Sunshine shouted, "Everyone get out of here." No. All the men looked outraged at Tamura's actions but were frozen in place. I'll take down this villain, so get the hell out of here. Sunshine ordered again, and this time they listened and retreated. However, Wraith approached calmly. I will cooperate with you this time. But only for revenge, got it, Vigilante? Wraith snapped. The more, the merrier. Sunshine shrugged, expecting a few to stay behind. Let's do this. Wraith charged first, closing the distance between him and Tamura in seconds, throwing a swift right hook followed by a kick to the stomach. Tamura retaliated by melting the skin off of Wraith's knee and elbow. This only amplified Wraith's rage. Sunshine shot out his grappling hook, catching one of the strings attached to Tamura's hands and yanking it, causing Tamura to trip and graze past Wraith's right hook, which collided with Tamura's face. Suddenly, Wraith staggered and collapsed, BLD spilling from a massive wound. Henji hell, that hurt. Don't think I haven't forgotten you, little hero. Tamura's right hand grabbed Sunshine's grappling wire and melted it. Sunshine took a few retreating steps back, fear creeping in. Not now, damn it. Tamura staggered forward, his body rocking back and forth. He'd taken some damage from Wraith's attack, at least that would give him an edge in this fight. So what exactly are you planning, Tamura? Kill All Might with what weapon could you kill the symbol of peace with? Sunshine sent out his line, hoping for a response. I'm willing to tell you since you'll be in the ground soon with your companion. Tamura indicated to Wraith's shaking body. I will end the symbol of peace and become the new headline in the news. Everyone will know of Tamura Shigaraki. So you have an ego problem. Great. Sunshine sighed, turning away from Tamura, boredom clear on his face. How dare you? I don't have ego problems. Tamura snapped, finally losing his cool. Really? Because it sounds like you have an ego problem. Sunshine crossed his arms over his chest. I'll kill you. As if I haven't heard that before. Sunshine smirked under his mask. Tamura speed-walked down the stairs, red eyes filled with rage. His left hand aimed for Sunshine's chest, but Sunshine sidestepped it, whipping out his staff and hitting him square in the back. Had enough yet, villain? Sunshine mocked as he avoided another loose attack. He relies too much on his quirk. He's basically screaming break my hands. Sunshine giggled to himself at that thought as he toyed with Tamura Shigaraki. Shigaraki. Wraith's booming voice filled the warehouse as he charged towards them. Sheet. Both Sunshine and Tamura uttered. Before Wraith hit them, Tamura touched Sunshine's helmet, causing his system to overload with warnings. A left arm swung, knocking him straight into the warehouse doors and through them. Skidding against the cold, hard concrete pavement, Sunshine finally stopped when his head hit a stray lamppost, stunned and bleeding. A familiar black-clad figure sprinted to him, arms looping around his battered body, probably checking for any life-threatening injuries. The voice echoed inside his skull. Too loud. Sunshine mentally groaned but built up the strength to speak. I'm fine. You need to stop them. Sunshine slurred, his tongue feeling detached. A wet substance was oozing down the back of his neck, causing a shiver to run down his spine. That can't be good. Sunshine slowly moved his right arm, trying to prop himself up. Kid, you need to stay seated. You may have a concussion, and it won't help you. Eraserhead's voice sounded distorted, and his face was blurry. Black dots were slowly consuming his vision, and shaking didn't help. Hey hobo. Tamura's voice vibrated through him. He's still alive. Did he finish off Wraith? Sunshine pushed himself slowly, but the warm arms around him tightened. Eraserhead was acting protective. Why would you care, hobo? Unless you're a hero. Sunshine felt Eraserhead's grip loosen slightly as his right hand grabbed his phone, pressing the emergency call for help button. He's going to take on Tamura. He can't. He'll die, and it'll be all my fault. Sunshine screamed internally, but no sound left his mouth. Eraserhead stood in front of his shaking body, his capture weapon coming to life. Please don't do this. Tears began to well up. Got it. Now rest up, kid. We're going to have a long conversation about you leaping before you look. Eraserhead scolded. A soft smile crossed his face before the darkness swallowed him. Anger replaced Eraserhead's soft demeanor as rage began to boil over. Oh, so the eavesdropper is your kid. You should have taught him better manners. Tamura Shigaraki taunted, flexing his hands and preparing for Eraserhead's attack, watching him like a predator watches its prey. Eraserhead glared at the man. Tamura Shigaraki, that name sounds familiar. He wanted to ponder that thought but knew taking down the villain was the priority. A capture weapon flew straight towards Tamura, wrapping around him like a boa. Before Tamura's quirk could activate, it was erased. Tugging on his scarf, Tamura was yanked towards Eraserhead, whose fist collided with Tamura's face with a sickening crunch. Eraserhead stood triumphantly over the villain. Eraser Dad. The kid's voice warned him of an impending attack, but he couldn't turn around fast enough. Blue flames licked at his skin, threatening to engulf him. Sunshine, fading in and out of consciousness, watched the fight between Eraserhead and Tamura Shigaraki. However, the villain had a backup. A man with midnight black hair and blue flames leaped through a purple portal. A teleporting quirk. If Sunshine hadn't noticed the increase in the male's flames, he would have been fascinated by the portal. Sheet. Izuku began to panic. His father figure was in danger, and he was too beat up to do anything. Life has a cruel sense of humor, Sunshine thought as he struggled to lift himself. His body screamed in agony, but his mind screamed in panic. Why was it always him? With every ounce of strength he could muster, Sunshine dashed towards the fight, screaming at Eraserhead as he bulldozed into him, getting Eraserhead out of the firing range while narrowly avoiding being burned himself. "You okay?" Sunshine asked. "I could ask you the same thing, problem child." Eraserhead rolled his eyes before lifting both himself and Sunshine off the ground. The new villain chucked Tamura through the portal before joining him, sending them a playful salute as the portal closed. "Well, they got away. Did you?" Eraserhead turned his attention to a collapsing Sunshine. "Kid." "Oh." Sunshine laughed softly as strong arms looped around his waist. "You overdid yourself, kid. No wonder you're exhausted." Eraserhead scolded. "We'll get you to a private hospital and treated." "That would be nice," Sunshine said, his eyes glazing over. "But my identity is at risk." "I just said private, silly. No one will be testing your DNA." Eraserhead reassured him. "Besides, that helmet of yours won't come off unless you put in the code or your head gets chopped off." "Yeah, about that." Just as Sunshine started to speak, cracks began to spread throughout the helmet. His adrenaline spiked as he grappled onto Eraserhead, his voice confident but hiding desperation. "I won't be conscious for much longer. But please don't let anyone you trust with your life see me." With that, all energy left his body, and he collapsed, the helmet shattering at that exact moment. To say Aizawa was shocked was an understatement, but he was irked by the fact that he had missed every single sign. Izuku was Sunshine. He ironically had a cafe named after himself. He should have seen all the signs before. Now his kid lay in his arms, exposed for the world to see. The first thing Aizawa did, other than taking in every detail of his kid's face, was ring Police Chief Tsuragami. "Hello, Eraserhead. What's the news on the situation?" Police Chief Tsuragami asked. "All villains have left the scene. However, there are probably bodies inside the warehouse. I haven't gone in to investigate and probably won't be either. Our key witness is out cold and requires emergency care," Eraserhead informed. "Oh. And who is this key witness?" Tsuragami asked. "Sunshine," Eraserhead said bluntly. "Ugh." Detective Naomasa Tsukachi was heard in the background. "I guess you'll be leaving the scene then," Tsuragami stated. "Yes. I'll update you on his progress and deliver the evidence later." Eraserhead hung up, carefully wrapping Izuku up in what was left of his capture weapon before taking off across the rooftops, dialing a certain healer. "Hi, it's Eraserhead. I have a patient who is in urgent need of your medical attention." The first thing Izuku saw was white, and it was blinding. As his eyes adjusted to the brightness, he managed to make out the objects decorating the room. The bed sat in the middle of the room with a small wooden cabinet next to it. 3 red chairs were up against the wall to his right. One chair in particular was already occupied by a sleeping figure dressed from head to toe in black, except for the white scarf wrapped neatly around his neck. "Hi." Izuku greeted a drowsy Eraserhead. "How long was I out for?" Like a spark igniting, Eraserhead hugged him close. "Don't you ever do that again, kid. I thought you were going to die." He loosened his grip to scold Izuku. "I get it. Don't be so reckless. I know. I just couldn't miss getting that information." Izuku tried to explain his actions, but Eraserhead wasn't buying it. "I'm sorry." It barely came out as a whisper, but it was enough to assure Eraserhead. "So what about that game of yours? Are we still playing?" Eraserhead asked. Izuku spluttered, clutching his wounds. "I guess the game's over since you figured out who I was. You win." He gave Eraserhead a goofy smile. Eraserhead was so used to only seeing half of Sunshine's face, but seeing the whole expression warmed his heart. "Still want to adopt me?" Izuku eyed Eraserhead suspiciously. "Still do, problem child," Eraserhead smiled softly. A few hours later, Aizawa had been preparing for this day for a long time. He had taken the test, which wasn't that hard compared to his training. However, winning over Izuku's current foster parent led to this awkward situation. Devon Carl, an older man in a wheelchair, sat with the pro-hero Eraserhead at a small round table. Neither one said anything as the paperwork sat on the table, ready to be signed. "So you want to adopt Izuku?" Mr. Carl stared at Aizawa suspiciously. "Yes. I'm not going to spill the kid's backstory, but put him and a pro hero in the same room. You already know the answer to this. Mr. Carl continued glaring at Aizawa. And him being quirkless. I won't even start. I know. It took me a while to figure it out, but even if he is quirkless, I wouldn't have him any other way, Aizawa answered truthfully. That kid has good taste in people. Mr. Carl sighed. You have my permission, but if you hurt Izuku, I know, no harm will come to him while he is under my care. I promise, Aizawa reassured. Good. Aizawa walked through the empty halls of the UA campus, heading towards the nurse's office. I should have kept my mouth shut about that. Now Hisashi is zooming over here, and the kid will be bombarded with questions. Couldn't he wait? Aizawa sighed as he slid the door open to the private room housing Izuku. What he was greeted by was Izuku sitting half in, half out of the window. Hi. Izuku gave Aizawa a sheepish grin. What are you doing? Aizawa stormed over to Izuku. Nothing. Izuku acted like a child caught in the act. Fine. I was going to do a patrol, happy? He pouted, crossing his arms like a stubborn child. Crime never rests, so neither should I. Aizawa pinched the bridge of his nose, exhaling loudly. Hisashi will be here soon, so just stay put for now, please. Midnight eyes met viridescent green. A silent conversation happened, which led to Izuku huffing and slipping back into the room, cheeks puffed out and arms crossed. I'm not a child. I'm a nearly full-fledged adult. Izuku started. Who would be arrested for being a vigilante since it's illegal, Aizawa said. Well, I don't use my quirk, so they can't try me for anything serious, Izuku continued. I know, but the police don't know this, do they? Aizawa stated. You are in no condition to be moving, but when you're better, we'll discuss your vigilante activities. So do we have an agreement? Yes. Izuku let a small smile grace his lips. I'm not making promises, kid. Aizawa stated. I know, Izuku replied. Knock, knock, knock. Both heads turned to the new presence in the room. Hisashi Yamada stood in the doorway, frozen in place. Hello, Hisashi, Aizawa greeted. Hello, Present Mike. It is a pleasure to meet you, Izuku greeted the pro hero as formally as possible. He appeared composed on the outside, but on the inside he was fanboying. Hello there, little listener. It's a great pleasure to meet you in the flesh. Hisashi gave him a massive smile as his eyes twinkled. So you're Aizawa's ray of sunshine. The others will love you. Hisashi. Aizawa scolded. What? The others also want to meet him since they've heard so much about him. Or as much as you would tell me. Hisashi chirped. You did what? Hisashi. Aizawa growled, his brows furrowed. What? I got excited and texted Nemura. She may have then texted some of the other staff at UA. Hisashi trailed off as Aizawa sent him a stern look. Izuku watched the chaos unfold further. Aizawa was getting ready to lock his husband out of their apartment for a week because of this. Hisashi was now begging for forgiveness, which he wasn't getting. Izuku couldn't help but break out laughing, clutching his injuries as he continued through the pain. Once he stopped, he felt like a fish out of water from the looks he was receiving. Sorry. Izuku started. If your wounds have opened up again, you will be, Aizawa scolded. Aizawa. Hisashi interjected. We haven't formally met yet, little listener, but I have a feeling you already know my name. Still, my name is Yamada Hisashi, and you are. Oh, right. My name is Izuku Magoff. Izuku smiled softly. It is a pleasure to meet you, Izuku. Hisashi grinned. I want to know more about Aizawa's little ray of sunshine. Like why you became a vigilante. Though, I know that is a very personal question, and you don't have to answer it. However, I just wanted to hear your reasons for picking such a violent and criminal choice. Izuku finished for Hisashi, eyes downcast as he fiddled with the sheet fabric. This isn't an interrogation, and I'd rather you told us out of trust, not peer pressure. Also, you're not a villain, you're a vigilante. So, doing illegal hero activity. Aizawa added, his face softening. Aizawa is right, little listener. We don't want you to feel pressured into telling us. No. It's fine. I know how curious people are about stuff like this. Not everyone understands the reasoning behind another's decisions. To put it simply, I am put down for being quirkless. I had to find a way to make ends meet because of the bias towards quirkless individuals. I figured out pretty quickly that no heroes were going to come to save me, so I had to depend on myself. Especially after my mother passed, I wanted to be a hero for those who are marginalized because of their quirks. Does that answer your question? I'm sorry if it isn't the best explanation, but that's the simplest way I can put it without going into full details. Izuku offered them the best smile he could muster, but it seemed strained. You really have had a hard start, haven't you, problem child? Aizawa sat next to Izuku, providing comfort with his presence. Hisashi, however, rushed over and pulled Izuku into a tight, affectionate hug, reminiscent of his mother. Tears streamed down Izuku's cheeks as memories overwhelmed him, drowning him in sorrow. He clung to Hisashi, returning the embrace and sniffing slightly. We're here for you, Izuku, and we won't leave you alone. Promise, Hisashi whispered reassuringly. Thank you, Izuku sobbed, holding on to Hisashi tighter. Black spots began to cloud his vision. He had already pushed himself to the limit. However, Izuku wasn't ready to drift into a peaceful slumber. He didn't want to wake up alone, fearing it would all be a dream. Yet the darkness persisted, pulling him into unconsciousness. Hisashi heard soft snores coming from Izuku's head resting on his shoulder. He's asleep. Hisashi whispered as quietly as he could. He fell asleep on me. It took you months to gain his trust. Hisashi teased, sticking out his tongue at his husband. He pushed himself. I don't blame him for falling asleep. We need to head home anyway. It's late and we need rest, especially with what we have planned for tomorrow. But we'll discuss this later. And I'm not jealous. Aizawa huffed, slightly annoyed at Hisashi's outburst. PFT. You're totally jealous. Hisashi laughed. Shut its speaker. The kid's asleep. Aizawa scolded. Sorry. Hisashi whispered as he gently tucked Izuku back under the covers. See you soon, little listener. Hisashi said as Aizawa ushered him out of the room. Bye, problem child, Aizawa muttered as the lights were turned off, and the UA grounds fell quiet once more. Waking up felt difficult. For once in Izuku's life, he wanted to remain asleep. He tugged the sheets over his head as the sunlight nagged him awake. With a huff of defeat, Izuku sat up slowly, being mindful of his wounds. He found the hospital room empty. Was it really a dream? Did I imagine it all? But how did I get here? Izuku lifted his right hand to shield his eyes from the bright light. Grumbling about it being too bright, he hoisted himself out of bed. His feet barely functioning, he reached for a change of clothes nearby. Someone had kindly put his vigilante costume away in a duffel bag. After changing into comfortable clothes, he considered going out the door but decided against it, opting to leave through the window instead. The morning air nipped at his bare skin, sending a small shiver through him as he pulled the thin layer of clothing closer. He landed awkwardly on the ground but quickly regained his balance. Scurrying across UA grounds, Izuku climbed the fence and over. Entering the safety of the city, he let his feet lead him home, head held low and arms wrapped around himself. He shuffled along, finally reaching Elm Street, where he walked past the closed doors of Sunshine, his eyes lazily gazing into the empty room. Not finding what he was looking for, Izuku continued around back. Fumbling with his keys, he entered his apartment, having left them in a compartment in one of his gauntlets. He just had to remember to use that compartment. Knees buckling, he collapsed on the couch, his eyes drooping closed once again. The faint sound of shuffling behind him signaled an uninvited guest. Yes. His voice was hoarse, laced with a hint of threat. You really are a problem child. Eraser Dad. Izuku mumbled, not bothering to sit up. Was it all a dream or am I in a coma? Definitely gonna be in a coma soon with the way you're going, kid. Aizawa huffed. Why did you walk off? You're supposed to be on bed rest until Recovery Girl says otherwise. Oh, Izuku replied. I had a feeling you'd run off anyway. Aizawa's footsteps drew closer. Move over, kid. Grumbling, this is my house. Izuku complied, shifting into an awkward sitting position. Those drags haven't worn off yet. Aizawa sighed, leaning back on the couch. What went through your head that made you think it was okay to run off like that? Because no one wants a useless, quirkless Deku, so I just presumed I dreamed up that conversation with you and present Mike, Izuku mumbled. Those are the drags talking for sure. What exactly did she give you? Aizawa scanned Izuku, worry etched on his face. We care about you, Izuku, and if Hisashi and I have to remind you every single day, we will. Now go back to sleep. But why? This has been bothering me for a while now. You didn't plan this, you just wanted to get me off the roof. Izuku turned to face Aizawa. So why did you change your mind? You knew, Aizawa murmured. Yeah. Izuku bowed his head, his fidgeting growing more pronounced. I'd read about a new vigilante taking to the streets, and I knew I had to get them off the streets. Aizawa paused, a solemn expression on his face. By arresting me? Izuku looked up with wide, pleading eyes. Keep that weapon for someone you really need to break, not me. Aizawa playfully ruffled his hair. But yes, I was going to arrest you. However, you were too fast for me. So I had to make a new plan, one that would help me win your trust. I'm not proud of it, but I was used to hero wannabes and how to deal with the ones who go rogue. I thought gaining your trust would be easy, yet it didn't go as planned. Izuku interjected. I knew what you were doing, by the way. I didn't bring it with me because I wasn't sure if it was still your plan, so I kind of played along. Silence fell over both of them as they continued to enjoy each other's company. When did you realize I actually meant it? Aizawa asked carefully, wrapping his arm around the younger's shoulders. The porcupine incident, Izuku admitted, shrinking a little. What about you? When did the plan backfire? A cheeky grin grew on his lips. The True God incident. I thought you were going to die. I realized you had really grown on me when I sat beside your bedside, waiting for you to wake up. Aizawa gently pulled Izuku closer. I remember that one. It was scary, Izuku mumbled. I nearly didn't make it back alive. He murmured the last part, but Aizawa heard it. Yeah, I'd hope so. You nearly got sacrificed. Aizawa scolded. It wasn't my fault they left the door open, giving me the perfect opportunity to sneak in, Izuku pouted. I've learned my lesson. Now that is a blatant lie, kid, Aizawa replied. I know. After you told me your mother died, I began my plan to adopt you. Aizawa stopped when Izuku slumped into his embrace. Soft, slow breathing told him Izuku had fallen asleep. You just never stop amazing me, kid. Aizawa remained in place, waiting for Izuku to wake up so he could call Hisashi to pick them up. For now, he would let the kid sleep. He needed it. He had a son, and his world was about to get brighter. Tired eyes slowly opened while limbs sprawled out. Izuku's purple curly hair was even more of a mess since it had been days since he'd last combed it. He leaned into the warm figure beside him, vaguely remembering what had led to him being sprawled out on his couch. Something about being absent-minded, which then led to him wobbling his way home and, holy cow, Eraserhead. He bolted upright, waking the dozing figure beside him. Yeah, kid. Aizawa grumbled. Wait, no, you said to call you Aizawa from now on. Izuku reminded himself. What are you doing in my house? How long have you been sleeping here? Izuku shot out his questions. Firstly, you left the back door open, and I've been here for 2 hours, Aizawa said, sitting up slightly. Oh, did I do or say anything dumb while I was? He fiddled with his hands, turning to stare at his brightly colored fridge. Nothing too bad. Just us both accepting that we really do trust each other. I am still adopting you, even if you admitted to something terrible. Aizawa playfully ruffled Izuku's already messy hair. Hey! Izuku batted away Aizawa's hand. It's already difficult enough to comb this, you know. He pouted slightly. Now what? Well, I take you back to the hospital and wait until you're discharged. I will prepare your room at my place in the meantime. We can come and pick up all your stuff from here, and the rest I'm unsure about. Aizawa shrugged. So I have to go back there. Yes. It's important you stay fit and healthy. Otherwise, how else will you keep saving others? A smirk spread across Aizawa's face. Really? Yes, but you can't leave without me or Hisashi. Got it. And no escaping from the hospital in the meantime. Got it, kid? Aizawa pointed an accusing finger at him. Really? You don't trust me? Izuku returned the smirk. Yes, I do trust you, but I also don't. I know. Izuku rolled his eyes, crossing his arms defiantly. I'm not watching you get injured to the point of death again, kid. Aizawa kept his finger pointed at Izuku. Izuku puffed out his cheeks, arms still crossed. Aizawa rolled his eyes as he pulled out his phone, probably to text his husband, Izuku presumed. Hisashi will be over in a few minutes. If you don't want to answer any of his questions, don't, okay. I will be fine. But wait, if I'm moving in with you, who will take care of my cafe? Or my info career while I'm in the hospital? Done and done. I took care of the first, and Shinso has taken care of the latter. So there is nothing to worry about, kid. Izuku felt reassured by Aizawa's confidence. However, regarding Shinso, he wasn't so sure. Shinso is my concern now. What did he do? Izuku's stress levels rose. It can't be that bad, he left a voice message. Aizawa read Izuku's expression, and worry flashed over his usually calm demeanor. I'll check it later for you if you're really concerned. Thank you. Anytime, kid. They spent another 30 minutes sitting on that same red couch, waiting for Hisashi to arrive. Aizawa was notified the moment Izuku was discharged from the hospital. Which leads us to this awkward drive to the hospital. Hisashi was driving the car since, as Aizawa put it, he wasn't road safe at the moment. With his arms crossed and a pout hidden beneath his capture weapon, Aizawa stared out the car window. Curse you, Hisashi, he thought, sinking further into the car seat. Just because I'm excited about picking up the kid doesn't mean I'm going to speed there. I know you're sulking, Shota, Hisashi said with a soft smile, though his eyes remained focused on the road. But I couldn't risk it. You've been going full mother hen the past couple of weeks. A quiet giggle escaped Hisashi. I hate you, but you're right, Aizawa sighed. I know, but we'll reach the hospital. And I bet Izuku is going to be waiting outside for us with the largest smile on his face. We are talking about the same kid, right? The one who was going to jump out of the hospital window as soon as he woke up. Aizawa shot Hisashi a skeptical glare, even though Hisashi's attention was elsewhere. Hisashi laughed again. The car stopped at a red light. Just a couple more blocks, Aizawa thought, sending the car back into its awkward silence. With Izuku, Shinso stood beside him, watching carefully as Izuku clung to his duffel bag. It was cold outside, and both were dressed in large puffer jackets. They stood in silence. You okay, Green Bean? Shinso asked. Izuku replied, shaking. You didn't give yourself whiplash doing that. Shinso joked, trying to calm his friend's nerves. No, came the small reply. It's that bad. Shinso winced. All right, Green Bean, I'm not dealing with this. Where's the badass who doesn't care about injuries? The one who annoys the villains. He twisted Izuku to face him. Where's that guy? That's only a persona, Shinso. Izuku exclaimed quietly. God damn it, Izuku. Shinso groaned. You're really that nervous? Yes, Izuku admitted. I can't wait to see their faces when they see you like this. They're going to wonder where the snarky badass they fell for went. Shinso rubbed his hands in anticipation. I'm totally texting Mr. Carl about this. He whipped out his phone, fingers skimming across the screen. What? Oh, Shinso. Izuku blurted out, trying to grab Shinso's phone. There he is. Shinso grinned mischievously. I don't know why I deal with you. Izuku crossed his arms stubbornly. Thank you, he whispered. For what? Shinso asked. Waiting with me and dealing with all my worries. Yeah, you are a lot of work. But you're like a brother to me, and I wouldn't have you any other way. Izuku was wrapped in a warm hug. There's their car. Shinso kept one arm around his friend while waving at the new arrivals. Hello. Aizawa exited the car first, his expression brightening. Hello, problem child, Shinso. Aizawa greeted, hands stuffed in his pockets. Hello, Izuku. Shinso. Hisashi smiled. Hello, Aizawa and Hisashi, Shinso replied. Izuku gave a weak wave, keeping his head low. Hi. Aizawa paused upon hearing Izuku's weak reply. Here we go. Well, I better get going. See you later, Green Bean. Text me. Shinso turned to walk away, feeling Izuku's grip on his jacket tighten. He turned his head around, met with Izuku's pleading eyes. Don't go, they seemed to say. When I saw Izuku, he appeared fine, but the closer I got, the more I noticed his body language. I presumed he would be okay, but when Shinso said he was leaving, Izuku responded with fear. You okay, Izuku? I asked, softening my tone. Izuku's face turned quickly, eyes wide as tremors spread across his body. He shrunk into himself further. He gets seriously nervous sometimes, Shinso said, worry etched on his face. Really? I heard Hisashi say but ignored it to focus on Izuku. This kid is full of surprises. Are you going to be okay moving in today? Or do you want to start slowly? Izuku turned his head away, conflict clear in his furrowed brows. I should be okay, was his quiet reply, hands fidgeting with his jacket's rim. Even though he'd answered, the conflicted expression remained. Is there something else on your mind? I waited patiently. Hisashi, with Shinso's help, loaded up the car. Izuku only had one bag for now, but it appeared heavy. While they struggled, I pulled Izuku over to a bench and sat him down. Are you still confused about why Hisashi and I are taking you in? I asked, looking up at the bright blue sky as white clouds chased each other. The hum of vehicles in the distance and bird song filled the air. Yes, he said quietly. Because you're a good kid and I care about you. I struggled to get the right tone, so it probably came out as boredom. I hate showing any emotion other than boredom or anger. I'm going to have to get used to this. A soft giggle came from the small purple-haired boy. He didn't say anything, only giggled softly, so I took that as my reply. We remained there until Hisashi called us back to the car. Bye, Shinso. Izuku had a smile that could rival the sun. Wow. Someone's brightened up. Shinso laughed softly. See you later, Izuku. Text me. I will. You better. Tell me everything, got it. And send a photo too. I was finally allowed to drive the car, with Hisashi in the passenger seat and Izuku in the back. You want to hear a funny story about Shota? Hisashi blurted out. Sure. Izuku sounded far too optimistic. I sent Hisashi a pointed look, but he just laughed as he finished telling a funny story about their time together. The air filled with laughter, and while Izuku didn't share a story of his own, he joined in their amusement. I felt my heart lighten. After the earlier incident, Izuku seemed to have moved past his conflict, at least for now. All we needed to do was reassure him that he was wanted. Aizawa's and Hisashi's lives were about to get brighter. A few months after Izuku moved in, the house had transformed. Aizawa and Hisashi usually spent their evenings alone due to their work schedules. But since Izuku's arrival, those once lonesome evenings had become vibrant. Each day was an adventure. Izuku ran his cafe during the day and made time to visit both his dads at work. He also found time to see Shinso. He was allowed to continue his vigilante courier work with one rule. In any high-risk situations, he must be accompanied by either Aizawa or Hisashi. He had been officially banned from going solo on dangerous cases due to his tendency to take risks, which he referred to as just plain old bad luck. One lunchtime on UA grounds, Izuku approached the gates of the prestigious school, adjusting the strap of his backpack. A quiet clunk came from the container stored safely inside. Okay, Izuku, you've got this. Just press the button and tell them who you are. You'll be fine. He encouraged himself. Beep. Hello. Who is this? A disembodied voice asked. This is Izuku Aizawa. I'm here to have lunch with Mr. Aizawa and Mr. Hisashi, he replied. Press your thumb on the pad, please, and hold until I tell you to remove it. Oh, okay, Izuku stuttered, placing his thumb on the fingerprint recognition pad and waiting impatiently, his left hand tapping nervously against his trousers. All right then, Izuku Aizawa, you're the real deal. Come on in. Thank you. The gate creaked open. Young Izuku. How are you? Principal Nizu greeted him. Good, thank you, Principal Nizu, Izuku replied. Do you know where Mr. Aizawa is? Or Mr. Hisashi? I think they're both in the teacher's lounge. Do you need directions? Nizu asked. No, thank you, I know my way, Izuku said politely. Strolling down the pristine white corridors, Izuku reached the teacher's lounge. He knocked politely on the door and waited to be let in. Oh, hello there, little Izuku. Midnight greeted him. Good evening, Miss Midnight. Is Mr. Aizawa in there? Izuku asked. Indeed he is, but he is currently out cold, Midnight replied. In his sleeping bag again. Izuku sighed. I brought baking for everyone. He lifted the container from his bag. Oh, what is it this time? Midnight asked, intrigued. It's just coffee cakes, Izuku shrugged. And? Midnight raised an eyebrow skeptically. They're shaped like cats, Izuku mumbled. I thought so. Come on, I can't wait to try them. Midnight let him in. Izuku was greeted by the sight of Midnight, All Might, Present Mike, and Eraserhead, who was currently unconscious on the couch. Izuku. Hisashi charged over, wrapping Izuku in a warm hug. How busy is the shop today? Not busy enough, Izuku replied. How difficult was class this time? Hisashi asked. Problematic, Aizawa groaned. Evening, Izuku chirped, bringing over a coffee-flavored cat cupcake and a juice pouch. Thanks, problem child. Aizawa ruffled Izuku's purple hair playfully, earning a glare in return. 30 minutes later, Hisashi announced, I got to go. See you at home, little listener. Bye, Izuku waved. I'll be leaving soon too. An hour later, Hisashi sat in his office, buried in paperwork. Knock knock knock. Come in, Hisashi called. Sir, Mr. Aizawa hasn't come to class, which is highly improper, Ida Tenya declared. When was he supposed to be there? Hisashi asked. An hour ago, Uraraka Achiko chimed in. Oh. Do you happen to know where he might be? Uraraka asked. Last I saw him, he was with the little listener. In the teacher's lounge. Hisashi abruptly stood up. Excuse me. He rushed down the hallway toward the teacher's lounge. Shota. Hisashi burst through the doors. What? Aizawa groaned. You're supposed to be in class. Hisashi trailed off, noticing Izuku soundly asleep on Aizawa. Oh. He fell asleep once everyone left. He hasn't been getting much sleep lately, and I didn't want to wake him when he finally got to sleep, Aizawa explained. Of course the kid told you. He loves you, Aizawa. Hisashi sighed. I'll take your class for the day. But you owe me. Quietly closing the door behind him, Hisashi was met by Uraraka and Ida's confused faces. Was he in there? Uraraka asked. Yeah, but he's currently occupied. So I'll take over for the rest of the day. At the end of the school day, Hisashi leaned against the door frame. You guys are still here. Morning, Mr. Hisashi, Izuku yawned, wiping the sleep from his eyes. How long have I been asleep? Long enough to get a good night's rest, Hisashi joked. Do you want to wake up Shoto or shall I? I'll wake him. Izuku shifted but paused. Did I fall asleep during lunch break? Apparently. And Aizawa left me here alone. Nope. You fell asleep on him, and he asked me to take his class. After that, he didn't show up for an hour. Wait, really? Izuku was shocked. Quieten down, problem child. People can hear you miles away. Aizawa groaned, shifting in his mustard-yellow sleeping bag. Sorry, Hisashi and Izuku responded together. What time is it? Aizawa rubbed his tired eyes as he slowly sat up. Time to go home, Hisashi said. I'll make dinner. Izuku chirped in. Later that evening, Izuku sat outside on the front steps, gazing up at the stars above. The cold night air nipped at his skin, yet he remained outside, the All Might hoodie wrapped tightly around his body. Hey, Izuku. What's going on with you? Aizawa's monotone voice drew Izuku out of his thoughts. Just thinking. About what? Aizawa placed himself beside the Vigilante. How long this will last for? Izuku's head slumped. You always find the darker side, don't you? Aizawa sighed. Nothing lasts forever. It's about living in the moment, enjoying every second you have with the people you love. So this will last for as long as we both draw breath. Of course you'd say that. Izuku rolled his eyes. There's something else on your mind, isn't there? The League of Villains has planned an attack on UA. They've targeted your class. When? Tomorrow. Guess I'll do my proper job then. I shouldn't have become a teacher. Aizawa complained. The man stood in front of the entire class of 1A, holding a grim expression. Dressed from head to toe in dark formal wear, his snow-white hair, sandy skin, and crimson eyes stood out against the black suit. All eyes were on him as he scanned the crowd of students, scowling slightly. Hello class, you may call me White Rabbit. I will be teaching you how to go undercover since some of you may become professional undercover heroes. His voice was calm but had an edge to it. Any questions? No one got a chance before he continued. Your classes will begin first thing in the morning. Good day. With a swift turn, White Rabbit left the classroom of stunned students. Wait, wasn't that the villain White Rabbit? Uraraka burst, slamming her hands down onto the desk. Didn't he help in the abduction of Bakugo? No one needed to remind Bakugo Katsuki of the events that transpired at the League of Villains headquarters. He hadn't told anyone, but the police and some of the pro-heroes knew what happened. With Uraraka's reminder, Bakugo began to ignite his hands. Shitty round face, you don't need to remind everyone. Especially me. Just like that, Bakugo stormed out of the classroom. Bakugo, class hasn't finished. Ida shot up from his seat. It hasn't even started yet, Aizawa mumbled. White Rabbit speedwalked as far away from the classroom as possible, almost slamming into All Might. Whoa, there's young Midoriya. What's the rush? All Might chuckled. Sorry about that, All Might. Just had myself on autopilot, again, White Rabbit, aka Midoriya Izuku, replied. But All Might, I remember us having a conversation about using my real name in public. He pouted, crossing his arms. Sorry, young rabbit, but I don't like using your undercover name. It feels wrong, especially since you are technically under my protection, All Might reminded him thoughtfully. I know, but it still feels wrong. You're going to have to use it when I'm around the students. White Rabbit lectured. Fine, but you have to call me Tashinori when we're hanging out. All Might playfully shoulder-bumped White Rabbit. White Rabbit broke out laughing and playfully returned the gesture as they continued to the teacher's lounge, surprising Present Mike when White Rabbit burst through the lounge doors. Humanity has obtained abilities known as quirks. 90% of the human population has a quirk, while only 10% remain quirkless. Over 20 years ago, the appearance of Overrule brought the existence of kaiju with them. These kaiju soon became a bigger risk than All for One. Massive and possessing multiple quirks, they were first found underground, buried 10 feet deep, coming to life at random. It was soon revealed that quirkless individuals weren't so powerless after all, only they could control the kaiju. However, as research advanced, this changed. Our protagonist, Izuku Midoriya, is quirkless, but no one knows that anymore. With a packet of hair dye and colored eye contacts, Izuku Midoriya disappeared, and Harley Chance emerged, quirk and all. Slowly flipping through his notifications, Harley's thumb tapped his screen, entering the article titled, Large Corpse Found Close by Mount Fuji. Another one. Harley muttered as the train came to a stop. Please exit off at Mizudafu. Have a nice day. The cheerful voice boomed throughout the cart. Dressed in a lab coat with skin-tight black jeans and a red checker button-up, Harley walked to work, face down and oblivious to the world around him. Finally reaching the door to his workplace, he put away his phone, ready for another day advancing their research on the quirkless and how they control the kaiju.